Hey friends, let's try this again. I started the video and then the sirens started rolling, and then my neighbor walked by and he saw me talking to the camera, thought I was talking to him, and responded. So anyhow, this is my second attempt at making this video about consciousness and sentience within humans and animals. And get that right out of the way, because I know I tend to beat around the bush before I get to what my subject matter is in the video. So the question I'm asking here is, to what degree are animals sentient or conscious? And sentience in itself is able to feel. And, you know, I'll say expressing emotion to a degree is, humans seem to think that it's something that we are special because we are the conscious beings, we are the aware beings. I'll tell you this, you know, I used to enjoy fishing. Even in catch and release fishing, if I'm going to catch a fish, I'm going to eat it. But I used to think, well, catch and release is fine, you know, you're not hurting the animal. Kind of buying into that idea that fish just really aren't sentient or not aware. And I think I knew better. You know, I don't fish a lot and I haven't fished in a long time, but even that, to that degree, there was even this article about hunters, how a lot of hunters believe that fish are sentient beings, you know. It would be like going out and if you lasso a deer and let him go, you know, it's obvious they're going to suffer some PTSD. The thing I'm getting at here is that there are still a lot of people who do not believe that animals possess sentience, that they do not have any capability to be aware of danger or beyond just a reaction to their environment. And I find this complete absurdity. And the most recent MRI research and neural imaging has shown that indeed animals are more than sentient. They're far more intelligent than we could have ever imagined. Anyone who's never seen the studies done on ravens, I urge you to check it out. Ravens, crows, they're super, super intelligent birds. They can do 3-4-part puzzles in order to get some food out. Here's the thing though that really got me. I found out that mice, rats, and birds are not considered animals. They are not defined as animals. And the reason for this is because of the lobbying by research groups who wanted to be able to use animals for testing, because harm to an animal is against the law. So by redefining birds and mice and rats as non-animals, it allows them to do the research on them. Well, some of these studies that they've done, they've proven that rats and mice are actually more than just sentient, that they're altruistic and they will save each other. They actually have empathy and emotion. And this seems absurd to some people. You know, I used to have rats as pets. I'm well aware that they are very, very intelligent animals. And there's no reason to believe that it stops at small animals like that. The question that I'm going to get to here is, when we get down into the insect level, sure, each insect may not possess the same network within their bodies, the same brain and the same capacity to reason like we do. But the group as a whole does. And this is how anthills function. This is how beehives function. The group as a whole knows how to move, when to move, or at least the queen or whoever's leaving to scout has to be aware of what they want to do and what they want to accomplish. And a person may say, well, this is just something that the insects just know to do. It doesn't answer any of the questions of what defines intelligence. And we as humans, we like to think that we hold this special status as being intelligent and being conscious, aware of ourselves, aware of our mortality, which gives us our crazy neurotic nature. But the thing that kind of blows me away is how much are animals aware, other animals, how much are they aware of their surroundings? Of course, they have to be able to, you know, fight or flight, to be able to panic, to be able to find food, all these things, which can, a lot of this can be genetic, certain things. A lot of them are also learned behaviors. But the thing that I really started thinking, and what started this whole idea to make this video, I wanted to know, can consciousness exist without senses? And this is something that I've been exploring in my brain for a couple of years now, and I haven't really talked about this much, but it's something that is super crucial to me to understand what, if you're trying to define intelligence, you know, trying to define consciousness rather, being aware of your surroundings, a person could say, okay, well, you don't need your senses. I mean, Helen Keller is a good example of, there are a lot of research done that discusses that whether a person will turn into an animal, let's say, if they don't have their senses, and to what degree we need our senses to function in the world. That goes without saying that we need senses to function. But the argument goes, when I hear people say, well, of course consciousness without senses. They say, even if you go into an isolation tank, you close your eyes, you have no smell, no feeling, no hearing, no taste, nothing. You can still be conscious. But here's where it gets funny. If it isn't funny already, of course it always is, but in order to sit quietly and be in your own mind, you have to be aware. In order to be aware, you have to have some sort of a framework or a structure to know that you exist upon. So therefore, if you never knew you existed, even when you're sitting with your consciousness and you're thinking about things and ideas that you are aware of, that you've experienced. Or you might be talking to yourself in your head and think, well, I can have a consciousness, I can have an inner dialogue within my head. Without your senses, you would have never learned that language. So, the senses feed the consciousness. The senses grow the consciousness, if you will. And my belief is that each one of us is more of a transceiver or a receiver that is able to corral and modify. This is getting into, shit that I don't even want to go into. It's so, it gets into uncharted territories, let's just say that. But when I believe that each human is conscious, I also believe that we're all conscious as one organism. The same way that the anthill, even though each individual may not possess a conscious awareness of itself, the group as a whole has a conscious awareness. And it's really interesting to think, where does that line stop? At what size does something cease to be aware of its own mortality, and why? But more than that, the big question here isn't why, and why don't some animals, or do some animals have sentience? The question is, why do any animals possess it? There were studies done on rats, where there were 2 rats in a cage, and they would tie one rat up, and he was endangered, and he was tied up. And another rat had the option to either eat the chocolate that they had put in the cage, or to free the other rat. And they found that the rat would free the other rat before it would even touch the chocolate, knowing darn well that it could just grab the chocolate, even stash it away for later, or maybe hide it. But it was aware that somebody was in danger, and it helped him. And this is repeated over and over. And what this showed the researchers was that altruism with animals is just as important, if not more so, than self-gratification. And if humans are to learn anything from this, it would be, if you don't care about your fellow humans, if you don't care about those who are in pain, those who are suffering, if you try to close your eyes to those who are not doing well because you don't want to see it, or because you believe that they're lesser people, whether it be racial or societal, cultural, you're going to suffer because of it. Because nature, the way that nature operates is it wants to grow, it wants to help, it wants to flourish. These are things that we can see so clearly in our lives, but that people, a lot of folks just don't want to admit it because they would rather close up within themselves and not have feelings for other people. And that must be a very, very depressing way to live. And as long as there's people out there who don't care about others, or tell themselves they don't, rather, because deep down everyone wants somebody to care about and somebody to care for them. I don't care what kind of a person you are, no matter what kind of negativity you've learned in your life, or how fucked up you think that society is and people. Everybody needs love and respect, and everybody has an innate desire to help others. So there's a cultural war going on between those who want to help and those who want to hoard. And that's something that has to work itself out in its own way. I believe that nature finds a way. I don't believe that it's humans' decision as to where we go next, as much as we'd like to think, though we may have a lot of say in how we want it to go. seeing the division among people who want to believe that humans are special and the only special creatures, and others who believe that animals should have the same rights, or at least somewhat be aware of their consciousness, and all the laws and regulations and the society, the framework and structure we live within. There are very few things that we can know for sure. But I think every one of us knows that in our heart we want to care about other people. So if you deny that, so be it. I think you're lying to yourself. I think that most people are aware of it. And most people, for some folks, when they see someone suffering, it hurts their heart and they back away from it. And they shut down. It could be someone across the ocean, it could be someone in your own neighborhood, it could be someone in your family. But where does that line stop to where you would help a loved one but not help a stranger? It's a learned behavior not to help one another. Let's just put it that way. That's why when something happens, when a little girl falls into falls over a fence into the water, somebody instantly jumps in after her. They don't sit there and think about, should I do this? Should I do this? And there are plenty of cases where they also have the paradox where there's a word for it, the bystander effect. If there's too many people in one area and someone falls and hurts themselves or is dying, people won't step in because they assume somebody else will do it. But that's separate beyond if you're walking down a trail with a friend and you see someone fall off a cliff and you can help them. I mean, most people would feel pretty guilty to walk away from that and pretend they didn't see it. So those are my thoughts. We're altruistic, but we have to be selfish to a degree. It's not about giving away everything you have to other people. If that makes you feel good, then so be it. It's about living our lives in a way that we are prepared to help other people when we need to, and that means we have to take care of ourselves first. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to be a martyr. Well, some do, but sometimes that's just how it is. It's an amazing life. So, peace, everybody. I'll talk to you on the flip side.